Guys, welcome to this week's Facebook Live, and a question came in from Joe Quinn a few weeks ago, and sorry Joe, I said I'd get back to you with this, just with the New Age Sports Pro and the mentorship. It's quite busy. So Joe asked, hi Dave, hope you're doing well. A bit of a random question. I think I came across a video of you doing a flexibility test in a standing position from a box with a ruler. I have been trying to locate the video again to see exactly where you used it as opposed to a sit and reach test, but could not come across it. Would you have a link for the video or some info on that test, as I've not found out much online? Okay, so what Joe is referring to is the bog standard toe touch test, where we put a ruler on a box and we just get a measure. So what I'm looking for with the toe touch test basically is, can you touch your toes? And if you can touch your toes, then I want to know how far away from your toes are, or actually can you go past the box and get past that that kind of zero and go way past beyond your toes, which isn't necessarily always a good thing either. So I prefer that personally versus a sit and reach test, and I've used it over the last few years with the pre-season screening. I also use it in pre-training markers, and from a rugby league or rugby uni point of view, I like the standing variation better because it allows me to get a little bit of a gauge more on the interaction between the rib cage, the pelvic floor, the hips, all interacting in a more dynamic situation. Okay, that then is also obviously needs to be put in context in terms of is there a reason why maybe that sit and reach or that toe touch might be down in that particular day. But to answer the question why I prefer it versus a sit and reach is, I think a sit and reach, especially if you think of the ankles are locked into dorsiflexion when we're reaching forward, and actually when you toe touch, we're actually going into plantar flexion. Okay, so there's a little bit different kind of interaction between the ankles and the hips there, between the toe touch and the sit and reach. From a stability point of view, I think the toe touch test challenges our stability a little bit more through the rib cage. When we touch the toes, we're looking at the ability of that diaphragm to lengthen, we're looking at the ability of the intercostals to lengthen in an interacting system that is basically being challenged in a more dynamic situation. Okay, so I think that potentially could give me indications that, okay, maybe potentially there's a lot more forces going through the lower back than maybe the sit and reach may tell me. Okay, so that would be one of the main things, is I want to figure out or kind of try to identify, you wouldn't be able to just do it with this test, but this test and then combine it with a few other pre-season screen tests, then we'd be able to get a good gauge, and you're going to start to see differences across the board. So for instance, I used to use an adductor squeeze test, so we're going to see that as well a lot, maybe down. Okay, so again, if the adductor squeeze motor output was down and the toe touch test was down, then that's interesting to me. Okay, because then I'm thinking, okay, well, is there a pelvic floor issue here potentially as well contributing to this? Okay, was that athlete doing a lot of conditioning yesterday, where maybe his kind of strategy to overcome muscle slack, etc., cause maybe a little bit of protective tone in these tissues? Okay, so I would always try cross-reference the toe touch test with other tests when I kind of try to figure out what caused this in the first place. So that's the first thing I would say, is the ankle range of movement and the ability of the interaction between the rib cage and the diaphragm, the pelvic floor, and the hips. I think we get a little bit more kind of equilibrium, or sorry, searching for equilibrium, we get a little bit more gauge of what's happening there, Joe. So that's why I've kind of used it in the past. I mean, look, I don't think there's any specific or gold standard pre-season screen test. I wish there was, or someone would be, would have figured it out and made a lot of money. But I think the big thing is you use your tests in combination with the subjective assessment. But the big thing for me is, if there's a dramatic reduction in scores on a particular day, it should make sense. Okay, so we don't panic if they're down on those tests, but we make it, we put it together and make a common sense reaction based on what the athlete's done the previous day and what we're going to do before they train today, so that we can ideally restore the ability of the diaphragm to lengthen, the rib cage to move, and the interaction between the pelvic floor and the hips and the ankle as well. Okay, so again, any protective tone, I just feel like we might be able to sit a little bit better in a standing position versus the sit and reach. Again, there's pros and cons to both of them, and I'm perfectly aware of that. I know the sit and reach, maybe there might be a bit more literature out there now. There is a little bit on the toe touch test. So I'll post a photo above this of that toe touch test so you can see it. There's also a clip on YouTube. I think the Hurricanes use it on a pre-season screening video as well, which I sent on to Joe. You can see them integrating it. I know the Giants use it. I've used it for a long time. I think the Leeds Rhinos use it as well quite a bit. So as I said, there is a few teams using it. I think especially, as I said, looking at forces directed through the lumbar spine, I think we can do that a little bit more better in a more interactive, dynamic, interchanging system with the toe touch versus the sit and reach. So I hope that answers the question, and I might do a follow-up video of that. I might show you the two different tests, and we'll go into that. But I'll be covering that anyway in over the next few months. So I usually do a pre-season screen and webinar. I usually do that about April or May, so keep an eye out for that, and we'll go through all that. Okay, so I'll see you next week. Any questions, pop me an email, pop them in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to jump on a Facebook Live and do my best to answer them for you.